Hey guys, today I'm going to be doing a book review on Mexican Gothic by Silvia Moreno Garcia. In Mexican Gothic by Silvia Moreno Garcia, Nomi heads to the Mexican countryside after she receives an urgent letter from her cousin. The ancestral home that her cousin now lives in is falling apart, full of rot and mold, and the family is even more strange. Nomi's only ally is the family's youngest son, and Nomi begins to unravel secrets of violence and madness. She must escape with her cousin at all costs before this same madness infects them. So you guys, how's my pronunciation of the leading protagonist's name? I'm going to apologize immediately at the beginning of this review. I wasn't sure how to pronounce her name. I looked up several different pronunciation guides for how to pronounce this name, and I'm not joking, every single one that I looked at seemed to have their own variation of how to pronounce it, and I was just really confused, and I was like, well, what's the correct pronunciation? So just for the sake of my own sanity, I'm just going to call her Nomi. I don't think it's pronounced Nomi. I think maybe when I did my TBR for this book back in December, because I was reading this for my December TBR, I think I was even calling her like Naomi, and I don't think it's even pronounced Naomi either. So I'm just gonna say Nomi. I think it is very, very wrong. I do apologize. So yeah, if anybody can kindly correct my pronunciation, I would appreciate that. So on to the review, yeah guys, seriously, this book has had so much hype to the point that I was a little terrified to read it, because I was like, well, is it going to live up to the hype? Am I just going to be disappointed? Add me to the fan club, you guys. Add me to the Mexican Gothic fan club. I thoroughly enjoyed this book. The hype is real. It might be slightly overhyped, but this book is still very, very good. It's highly enjoyable, highly entertaining. It kind of does a few things that you're not really expecting. So yeah, this was very, very good, you guys. So, on the surface, when you're reading the plot summary for this book, the summary is not particularly anything brand new at all. The book is definitely playing with the tropes within the Gothic literature genre. You can definitely see elements of something like Jane Eyre in here, things from Rebecca, even something like The Fall of the House of Usher, you know. There you can kind of see very similar tropes from other things where a character, your protagonist, your female protagonist, where she's living in like this kind of decrepit, falling apart ancestral home, you know. So yeah, the plot of this on the surface, nothing sounds particularly brand new. You have your main character, Nomi, who may not be called Nomi, I might be pronounced that wrong once again. You have her, she gets this urgent letter from her cousin. Her cousin Catalina is claiming that her husband is poisoning her. So Nomi, she heads out to the Mexican countryside to the ancestral home of her cousin's husband's family, and it's here that the family is definitely very strange. Everybody in the family is just really strange and odd. They have like these really specific rules, things they can do, things they can't do. So yeah, Nomi is just really trying to get down to the core of, okay, what's going on here? Is something going on? Is Catalina just sick, you know? What I also really liked about this book, because when you do read a lot of Gothic literature, my experience with Gothic literature, a lot of times it tends to take place in like the English countryside, and I really liked that Silvia Moreno Garcia, she really like took the setting somewhere else. You know, it's like she kept some of the tropes of the genre, but she kind of shifted and moved some things. And yeah, one of the big things that she does is she shifts the narrative to the Mexican countryside, which really added a very distinct feel and look and a different type of atmosphere, I think, to the book, while still having those influences of the Gothic literature genre in there, obviously. So yeah, I really like that. It just added a different type of flavor to it, I think, as you're reading. And the same goes for our leading protagonist, Nomi. The same goes for her. a lot of times in Gothic literature, you may have your strong female protagonists, but at the same time, they are very wide-eyed and naive, a little innocent, and they can kind of be almost a little bit of a damsel, you know, a bit of a damsel, but while also still kind of being, you know, strong and independent in their own way. But yeah, Nomi is kind of a bit opposite. She's definitely not wide-eyed. She's not pure and innocent. She's much more experienced and worldly, I suppose, and she don't take no shit from no one, pretty much. She doesn't let any man walk all over her. She says what she wants. She does what she wants. She has the opinions that she wants. And, you know, sometimes I would forget that this book took place in the 1950s. That's another thing. This book takes place in the 1950s Mexican countryside. And I think I had to keep that in mind. If I had to kind of maybe have one little gripe with this book, I did kind of struggle sometimes remembering this is the 1950s. Because sometimes Silvia Moreno Garcia, she wouldn't really have a lot of, like, historic details or anything. I mean, you would kind of be reminded of the time period, kind of sometimes more specifically through the clothing, I feel like. So yeah, I'm sitting and wondering, why did she place this in the 1950s? What was the point of the 1950s? But I think at the end of the day, the 1950s was a good time period to settle on, because for starters, it takes away the use of technology. You know, it takes away the use of computers and phones. And yeah, if you think about it, if any of these characters, especially Nomi, if she walked into this situation and she had a computer and a phone, she could have easily done some sort of research. She could have got, like, answers a lot quicker about stuff. And then yeah, when she needed help, she could have had her phone to call for help and assistance. So I think that's kind of a big primary, to me, I think that's a big primary thing why this book was set in the 1950s. It was a big thing to take away the option of technology from getting in the way, I think. Because yeah, I think that would have, because yeah, if I was reading this book and then, like, when Nomi, when she gets in peril at certain points, and I'm sitting there thinking, oh, she could have just pulled out a cell phone here. Well, that's just it. She could pull out a cell phone and save herself from some sort of situation. She can call, like, 911 or whatever, you know, or a police officer or something. But yeah, there's no phones, there's no technology, since it's the 1950s, obviously. So that does, it omits kind of solutions, you know, that omits solutions that Nomi has to think for herself, and she has to be on her feet at any given time, and she has to kind of be independent and think about things her own way without the assistance of kind of other people helping her, pretty much. And you guys, a big thing you gotta know about this book, because I've seen this on a lot of other reviews as well, this book is definitely like a slow burn. It really slowly builds the narrative. It really builds the tension and the suspense and kind of this whole thing of, okay, what's really going on here, you know? You're kind of reading into every little thing going on, essentially. So yeah, Silvia Moreno Garcia, I love the kind of the pacing. I love the pacing that she has with this book. She takes her good time setting up the narrative, setting up the characters, setting up kind of some of these relationships. Because then when you do get the big thing, you guys, I'm not going to have no spoilers in this video, when you do get to the big reveal, the big twist of kind of what is going on in this house, it's like, what? You're kind of taken aback. It comes out of nowhere. It's like wham. You finish a chapter and you're kind of thinking the narrative's going to go in a certain direction, and then all of a sudden it's just wham, right there in your face. Nomi is just kind of pushed headlong right into what is going on in this house, and it's absolutely horrifying and insane, a little bit just absurd almost, like what the hell, but I loved it. Silvia Moreno Garcia, it's like she takes this genre, this very oft-used genre, the same tropes, but she really throws in some interesting twists and turns in this book that really set it apart from the genre, that really just kind of take you back, like, oh my god, I can't believe this is going on, this is what's happening, this is grotesque, this is horrifying. And the thing is, I had my suspicions about the family anyway, you know, knowing that this was the type of novel that it was, you know, I had my suspicions about, okay, could the family be this? On my Goodreads, On my Goodreads review, I do have a few spoilery sections in my review. I do mention what I specifically thought the family might be, what this novel might turn out to be, but I was mistaken. I had my suspicions about the family that were proved wrong, of course. But yeah, just some of the things that happened, I was like, wow, I can't believe that happened. So let's talk about all the other characters. I already mentioned Nomi, how much I liked her as a protagonist. She's just a very different type of protagonist for this type of genre. I really liked her. I also liked the character of Catalina, who is her cousin. Catalina, unfortunately, is kind of in and out of the narrative sporadically. You never really spend a prolonged amount of time with Catalina, unfortunately. So you don't really get to kind of see her kind of grow that much. She's not really fleshed out too terribly much, unfortunately, but she does have a couple great moments near the end of the novel that kind of make up for that, I think. And then yeah, moving on from her, the Doyle family. Catalina has married into a family called the Doyles. You have the patriarch of the family, who is named Howard Doyle. Good Lord, he is something else. He's very arrogant. He has an ego. He definitely is all about his privilege that he has, that his family has, that they've had for centuries. Because they're like a long ancient name, essentially. Yeah, he's sexist, he's racist, he definitely believes in this whole notion of, you know, superiority over inferiority, you know, who's superior and who's inferior. He's one of the most despicable characters in this book. And then you have his son, Virgil, who is Catalina's husband. And Virgil was very interesting because it's like he oozes charm and charisma, but when he's using that charm and charisma, it's like it's very kind of like just distracting, because it's like you are almost kind of drawn to him, because Nomi is drawn to him too. She's oddly drawn to him, but she's also heavily repulsed by him. And I think even as the reader, that's what I was feeling. Even as the reader, I was kind of there with Nomi as well in the situations she would get in, that I would be kind of like charmed and attracted to him as well, but then like, oh god, this dude, oh my god, he's repulsive and irritating, I can't stand him, you know. So yeah, Silvia Moreno Garcia does a great job with Virgil, kind of just this back and forth, like, what is going on here with this dude? And then you have Florence, who is Howard's niece. Florence kind of helps run the house. She's a no-nonsense woman. You definitely hate her. She's definitely this great foil and antagonist to Nomi and Catalina whenever they're trying to talk to each other, and she has pretty much all of the last say in this house. So yeah, Florence was a great character. I just hated her. And then one of my favorite characters was Francis. Francis is the cousin of Virgil, and he's the son of Florence. Francis, he is easily the most likable and sympathetic out of the entire Doyle family. He just feels trapped in this house. He feels trapped in a situation he can't escape from. He has a bit of naivety. He's very innocent and kind of pure in some ways. And yeah, here's Nomi, who comes into his life, who's just this breath of fresh air and very exotic and sexy, I think, to poor Francis, who's never experienced a woman like this before at all. And yeah, if you want to know my more spoilery thoughts on Francis and Nomi, definitely go check that out on my Goodreads page, because I loved Francis and Nomi. I definitely was shipping that, yeah guys. And what's great with Francis and Nomi is they're the only two who can really truly support each other. You know, they have to rely on each other, they have to trust each other, and it makes them a good little unit together, I think. And then, of course, this book is littered with a host of some supporting characters. You have like a woman who's a healer in the town. There's a local doctor in the town. I really loved all the supporting characters as well. They serve their purpose and function. They're there when they're needed within the narrative. Overall, the characters in this novel are really great. They're not the most fleshed out of characters. That is kind of one downside of this book, is none of these characters are particularly like heavily fleshed out. Sometimes they can almost be a little one-dimensional, but not in a bad way, because the book is definitely really strongly focused on, you know, everything going on in this house and what the big twists and turns are. The characters are kind of almost secondary to that, I feel like. But like I said, not in a bad way, necessarily. So, how would I recommend this book? I definitely am recommending this book. The reviews on Goodreads are insane. People pretty much love this book. I think this book hasn't it been picked up for either a movie or a TV series already, I want to say. So yeah, but pick this book up if you like the Gothic literature genre and you kind of want to see a different type of spin on that. Pick this book up if you want a setting in the Mexican countryside, if you want to see a Mexican protagonist as your lead of the story. This book, it's essentially a horror book when you get down to it. It is a horror book. And what I kept thinking about as I was reading this book, I kept thinking it's like this cross between Get Out and Rosemary's Baby. Hopefully none of that is too particularly spoilery, me saying that. I've seen Rosemary's Baby, but I've not seen Get Out. But from what I understand and kind of the little bit of knowledge that I do know about Get Out, I feel like this book could be almost comparable to something like Get Out. Like I said, crossed over with Rosemary's Baby. The plot of this book does not follow the plot of those two particular movies. It's more of just kind of some of the more thematic elements is what I'm kind of comparing it to. Is more of the thematic elements of something like Get Out and Rosemary's Baby, if that makes sense. So that way you don't think I'm sitting here spoiling something. So yeah, if you like horror genre, pick this book up. Like I was mentioning, this book definitely tackles some pretty big themes once you kind of dig into it. It tackles superiority versus inferiority, definitely deals quite heavily with some Darwinism, and it's definitely a big deconstruction of fairy tales, I think, because Nomi and Catalina, their whole childhood together, they loved fairy tales and they would read fairy tales to one another, and yet Nomi's constantly bringing up like fairy tales and comparing events to fairy tales and, you know, kind of the lies of fairy tales, if you will. So yeah, pick this up if you're looking for something unique and refreshing, you guys. It's an entertaining ride from start to finish. I thoroughly enjoyed it. And yeah, anything Silvia Moreno Garcia writes in the future, I'm definitely intrigued now. So you guys, that is it for this review. In the comments below, have you guys read Mexican Gothic? Do you plan on reading it? Just let me know your thoughts down below. So that's it for this video. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And if you like this video, you may like these other videos. Bye guys.